We were starting to talk about misogyny, and it was your view that this podcast is misogynistic. Is that correct? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I think that a lot of the conversations surround discrediting misogyny and essentially criticizing women on a hypercritical lens. I mean, I'm not saying specifically you, but I would say, as you were saying, with the mass implication of media, I do think a lot of commenters or a lot of conversations are sparked in misogyny because it is a controversial topic, and it's a topic that can be very reactionary for women.
Well, didn't you, when I asked the question earlier, didn't you just outright say, yeah, I think the podcast is misogynistic? I
was reading from what I had said a year ago, and the notion that
didn't you tell my staff that the podcast, Nick, did you?
I said I was blocked on Instagram because I called that podcast misogynistic.
I don't even think in your original messages did you even say misogynistic?
Yes, I did.
I think
if
you
want
said
to pull it up again.
We could pull it up again really quick, just so I can scan it. Nick. I mostly zoned in on exploitation. There's a lot of exploitation, young women, women of color, it's up. I don't know if I saw an accusation of actual misogyny.
I'm sure my prospect of downplaying the woman experience was centralized around misogyny. Yes, that's correct.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think you indicated either behind the scenes, in messages, or even on the show that you view the podcast, I don't know if it's myself, as misogynistic.
Yes.
And then I think you did too?
Yeah, I mean, can I ask you a question and you respond to it, engage with it like in good faith and so genuine?
Well, allow me to ask a couple of my questions first, but you think that the podcast is misogynistic?
I believe that you benefit from misogyny, and I think that it has misogynist.
From misogyny.
Well, here's my question. I'm just going to ask it.
Well, hold on. I'm in the middle of.
Well, you asked me a question. My question is
thread.
A response to what you just asked. Why do you think it is that every person who sends you money is saying something misogynistic if you don't benefit from misogyny?
Are you new to the internet? Like, do you realize how when you have anonymity and you have just total on YouTube, these are all anonymous people. Super toxic. I don't co-sign. I even said I disavow some of their statements.
But I'm asking why. I mean, none of it's like, say, anti-Semitic. None of it's like other isms that we could do with our anonymity. It's all sexism and misogyny. So why do you think those people are watching you and sending you money, if not you benefiting from misogyny and stoking that for your own personal benefit?
Well, I think you're making a lot of assumptions there that are not based in reality at all.
You can read the comments and say they're misogynist. If you say they're not, that doesn't make them not.
We're doing a live.
Fine, then all the commenters who comment on your behalf are misandrous then.
Sure. Go for it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right?
So, again, everything's anonymous. As a man, I don't know how to take responsibility for what other people say. So I can have a conversation about the things that I discuss on the podcast, but I can't I don't know how to be responsible for what somebody else says, especially somebody who says it anonymously. So
I didn't say you were responsible for it, but I think you benefit from it and you intentionally engage with those comments and you stoke that kind of discord.
Did you say you consider yourself a feminist?
I do.
Okay. So you benefit from a misandrist system. Now, I'm one podcast. You were talking about systemic. What was the other word you used? There's systemic, and then there was another word I'm trying to remember.
Institutional?
Institutional. So I have one podcast. You're a feminist. I have absolutely no power compared to the absolute Goliath that is feminism. You're laughing. Every single university in this country has a feminist studies program, a women's studies program, a gender studies program. Every single universities, all these universities are systems, and these systems have $100 million endowments. That's what I'm up against. You guys have all the power. Feminism has all the power. It has infiltrated all the institutions of higher education, government, media, corporations. Do you think my message is the mainstream? I'm the counterculture.
No, I don't think
I'm the
main.
counterculture. You, as a feminist, possess all the systemic and institutional power in this country.
I would disagree with that. I think that's
How is that
inane.
conceived in government, in media, in corporations, in the higher education system? Feminism has 100% control. It is the status quo. How can you sit here and say that? And feminism preaches an absolutely man-hating ideology. The core tenet of feminism is the patriarchy theory, which in my view is a absurd conspiracy theory.
What would you say the patriarchy theory is?
I mean, there's different definitions of it. It's this idea that men hold all the power, women are precluded from having any power, and that men as a class are oppressors and women are the oppressed. If that's what you're teaching people in these systems, in this systems of education, you're teaching women to have absolute contempt and hatred towards men. If you're teaching women that they are oppressed and that men are the fault of that and that men are the oppressors, you hold all the cards, you hold all the power.
So what do you think we should be teaching women?
Well, I think that the first thing is that if you experience any sort of ridicule whatsoever from a dynamic, that you don't disparage them. Instead, you hear what they have to say. In this particular case, Brian points out something which is very interesting. Who holds the institutional powers? At the incel or the feminist? You tell me.
I would say that incels do not hold any institutional power, but I would say this is also getting away from my original question, which was, I mean, I guess it's not a question, it's more of a statement. You benefit from misogyny. It doesn't matter who has the institutional power.
You benefit from misogyny. If you didn't, you wouldn't be here right now.
I benefit from misogyny?
You must, because your claim here is that a bunch of misogynists are having you on to spread your message.
I mean, I guess in that way I do benefit from it, but then
I guess you do. I guess you benefit from all this misogyny.
So you admit
It's
that he
crazy,
also benefits from it. He also benefits from it, right?
I don't even know what that argument is, though.
I'll let you reclassify the word to misogyny, as long as you say that a bunch of patriarchist misogynists are benefiting you by allowing your message to go out to them. Go ahead and say that for us, if you don't mind.
The thing is, my message is not going out to a sympathetic crowd right now. I mean, you can see who's watching and who's sending money. No one who's listening is going to... I didn't know what this podcast was when they invited me on. I was invited on 2 hours beforehand.
That's also incorrect, just so you know. Hang on, let me just give you some framing. I understand what your framing is. Steel manning it back. Hey, I understand, but I'm in a hostile crowd. But you're really not. You might be in a hostile crowd right now with the chat, which is currently right here. However, millions of people will likely see the clips that come off of this podcast, and you will get a sympathetic ear from that. And I also don't buy that you didn't know what this podcast was.
I didn't.
I'm sure that you seem like you're the type who's diligent and does your research. Are you not that kind?
I don't watch podcasts. I don't know.
You don't? So you just agree blindly to just whatever anybody offers you?
Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, yes?
No.
Did you just say yes?
Would you like to move on, or would you like me to respond?
No, I would like to just finish this real quick. I'm almost done.
Okay,
you don't
Andrew.
mind.
All right.
That was a joke. I don't actually. No,
okay, you don't actually. So you didn't do any of your due diligent research before going on a podcast. You didn't have no idea what was going to happen. You had no idea that this was a dating podcast
Andrew,
where it's an adversarial relationship between the males and the females. You had no clue.
No, it was marketed as a dating podcast, but I kind of just did it because it sounded fun. I mean, the fact that it's hostile is...
Go ahead, final thing, and I'll go.
I was just going to say, I'm not saying that, so this is what you do, this is my only point was that you benefit from people's misogynistic viewpoints. And if that makes me benefiting from it too,
you do
sure.
too as well, right?
Sure. On this day, I'm benefiting from it, but only one of us has the podcast and does it continually. I'm just a guest benefiting from it on this day.
How could you blame a bunch of misogynist, patriarchist lunatics
Andrew,
for promoting
you? Can you center, please?
Okay.
No, can you center?
No, yeah. How can you blame a bunch of evil misogynists for allowing you to get your message out there? Does that sound like misogyny?
I mean, Yeah, because they're benefiting from the misogynists who are watching.
But you're also benefiting from the misogyny.
I already admitted to that. Sure. Today I'm making money from it.
How is this even a criticism then?
I don't even
Wouldn't this mean that misogyny was good? Wouldn't that mean misogyny is good if you're benefiting from it?
I don't even really understand.
Doc Vinably donated $200. To paraphrase Rush Limbaugh, the Whatever podcast is equal time pushing back against the systemic misandry of feminism. Evidence, The Boy Crisis by Farrell.
Very well put, Doc Vinablis.
I thought Rush Limbaugh was dead.
Okay.
I just think it's weird that it seems like
He
most
is
of
after he destroyed an entire culture of progressive scumbags.
Can you hear me?
Yes, that's true.
Can you hear me?
Another.
Can you hear me?
Devon Jackson donated $200. As someone who's sent as much if not more money to this podcast than anyone, I can assure you I've never said anything misogynistic, so from the bottom of my heart, fuck you, the individual, not the woman.
So, okay, you're saying that I benefit, but what is really, thank you, Devon, I don't really understand your argument here, because, like, let's say, for example, Joe Biden received political contributions from a, like, radical feminist group that hates men.
Which he does.
Sure. Like, does that mean that just because he receives the support of a radical group that he necessarily, and look, I don't want to get into Joe Biden's views on shit, but does that mean that he co-signs those views because he has received the support of said group? And we've seen this a lot from Trump, where Trump will get an endorsement from somebody who's a radical in some way, and then that is somehow it must mean it's a reflection on Donald Trump's precise political views and ideology, when that's not the case. So I'm just not really sure what your argument is.
I didn't say you were co-signing it. That your own opinions on women are your own, but my only argument is that you're benefiting
Grid
from
One
it financially.
Motorsports donated $200.
Okay.
I rebuke the claim of misogyny. However, I will call stupid and would prefer brutal honesty to comfortable lies.
Yeah.
I can see why you would not. The patriarchy is here to help you, not Brixton.
Thank you, Grid One Motorsports. Appreciate it. Okay, so you view the podcast as anyone here else think the podcast is misogynistic?
I don't really watch it, so I am not able
Do
to
you?
determine that.
Look, I just want to say this, and I'll make it quick. I find it weird that a lot of your audience seems to either, I wouldn't say that they hate women, but
Okay.
it's like women that do like OnlyFans or like sex work, and then they pay a lot of money just so they can like insult women. And that's odd to me. I'm not saying what everyone else at the table is saying, but I'm saying that that is
Okay,
weird and it's negative.
Exclude the viewers, exclude the audience of the things that are discussed on the podcast. Do you view the podcast as misogynistic?
No.
Okay, but you two do. So I have a question. You use the word. How do you split, please? Ooh, okay. How do you define misogyny?
I would say that it's not opinion-based, rather the instigating of anti-woman concepts. So anytime you ask a question, there's kind of an automatic rebuttal. So you're going into it of, oh, well, women should do this but shouldn't do this, and women should feel this way but they feel this way, or putting words into everyone's mouths, I think kind of promotes this idea of misogyny. Obviously it's a blanket term, and I do feel as it was overused, and I apologize, but I do think to some capacity benefiting off of the hatred. Or,
you're not answering the question.
Okay, my perspective of I define
misogyny
misogyny as expressing hatred towards women from a gender standpoint rather than an objective opinion or material matter, such as hating on a woman for how she looks, telling a woman that she is incompetent or dumb, more
What
based
if she
off
is? Is it misogynistic then to tell an incompetent person they're incompetent? Not that I've done that, but...
Is it an opinion?
What?
Dick Bick Energy donated $200. Would happily support a podcast that's promoting celibacy, virginity and lifetime godly marriages. We're supporting because we understand we're steering the culture in a positive direction.
That's what we should be doing. Yeah.
Thank you, DBE. Thank you, man.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
And I think I loved like your conversation. And I think we often get boxed into this idea of I have to have this opinion or I have to have this other opinion just because we perceive one thing said as a certain way. I think being called bratty for having my own opinion is highlighted in misogyny. I think if I were a man, a lot of my opinions would be perceived in a different way. So I think that misogyny is more...
we would assume you would be making sound arguments and we would take it
That
more
is
seriously.
misogyny. If you assume I would be
No,
making
that's
sound
not
arguments
misogyny.
because I was a man, that is misogynistic.
Yeah, I mean, you really just like
Oh my
are
What do you
digging
mean?
yourself into a
How's that
hole.
What do you mean?
misogynistic?
What do I mean?
You're really just
You
digging your
just
own
said
grave.
if I were
You
a
haven't
man.
made a single good argument all night. Why
So
would
if
anyone
I
take
was
you
a
seriously?
man, you would assume I would be making sound arguments, but because I'm
Yes,
a woman,
because
I can't make a sound argument.
Do you know why the precondition applies here? Because we've listened to you
Killer of
make
Cereal
nothing but
donated
relevant,
$200.
rational arguments.
Hold on.
How
the
many
entire
women
time.
also donate to this podcast? Are they incel misogynistic degenerate men because they are female? Changing a perspective from a debate isn't misogynistic. The change was already in you.
Correct. That chatter's right.
Wait,
So
hold,
the
wait,
point
sorry,
here,
sorry,
the point here stands.
hold on. Kill of cereal. Thank you. Just to prove his point, I have a chat that's about to come in here from Conservative Latina. Thank you. Love seeing Isabella on the pod. You're
Hi.
awesome, girl. Q for the girls. Can women be sexist towards men? How would you feel if you heard men saying, I hate all women, like women do? Also, Christ is king. Thank you, Conservative Latina. I'll ask that question a little bit later. I'll get back to that, though. I have it written down. Thank you. Or Andrew, you had...
Go ahead.
Yeah, what I was saying specifically is we've only judged you on the merits of what you said and the arguments that you've made. If you've acted like a brat, I don't recall calling you one.
I didn't call you a brat.
And Brian, I don't
I'm not
recall
talking about you
calling you
guys.
one either.
No. I didn't say you guys. I was saying from the chat. It's okay for people to perceive
Yeah, but
me that way.
why is it that the people who tune into the show you're so adamant about, you're having the discussion with us, who's viewing it should be irrelevant to that. They're going to judge you on your
Okay.
arguments as well. And you know what? That's the most fair way to do things. Do you think that when I'm in debates with these massive liberal progressives all over the internet that I'm not getting judged by their audience? Because I am. Then the last thing I say is, oh my God, they're judging me. It's terrible. That's ridiculous. Make the arguments and let's engage with them.
What's the name of this live?
So, I don't know if I got a clear answer on this. How do you define misogyny?
I just feel like no matter what I say, my opinion's gonna be wrong. So I would love to start having a conversation, like even
Just
with you about
here,
these other
can you just
topics.
engage really quick? So
What do you want me to engage in? Because I'm constantly being
well,
shut
you got
down and told I'm
There
wrong.
was an interruption from the TTS. Just if we can do Splitnik. So just how do you define misogyny?
I define misogyny as exactly what he said to me. If I
Okay,
were a
you
man,
got it.
if I were a man, I would be making sound arguments. I believe misogyny is
That's
defined.
actually not what I
as-
said.
You did say. Did he say
No,
that or
no,
did he not say
no,
that?
no.
I was
Just
actually
ignore
granting
what he
your
said.
worldview. Just so you know, so you
Women-
understand, I was granting your worldview.
Okay.
And I was saying because the precondition
If-
is you think that if you were a man, you'd be making sound arguments. That's what my point was.
Okay, I'm sorry if I misunderstood you. My
Well, maybe
opinion,
I wasn't
misogyny.
clear, so I'll apologize if I wasn't clear.
No, don't worry.
That's my bad.
Misogyny is founded in discrediting certain opinions or perspectives by being equated to womanness. So when a woman is loud, she's aggressive. But when a man is loud, he is a boss. He is a leader. Those are misogynistic perspectives
Grid
in
1
society.
Motorsports donated $200. Dollar Store Blondie, we have listened to your inaccurate, trite, and wandering prattle all night. Perhaps you feel guilty about how you live your life in sin, acting a victim, and being argumentative.
Maybe, but but a perfect example of misogyny is how am I more argumentative than you two? Do you see my
Nobody's-
perspective? Yeah, but
Well,
that
because
person.
between the two of us, you've said twice as much as I have when I've been discussing things with you.
Dick
That's
Big
why.
Energy donated $200. Misogyny is literally disagreeing
not
with
at
women.
all what I think.
If we don't stop this BS now, they lock us up for it. The hour is late, gentlemen.
That's right. Disagreeing with women, you know, it's going to be a felony pretty soon, guys. It's